Herman Mashaba, ActionSA founder and leader. My goodness, you've come a long way in the last 2 years. I'm looking forward to hosting you at the BizNews conference at the end of February next year. You're going to be back again. You opened the very first conference 2 years ago. And at the time, your party was just, well, it hadn't been formally created yet. And today, you're shaking up the world.
Well, Alec, thank you very much, first of all, for hosting me as usual. Always really a pleasure talking to you. Alec, you know what choice does one have? I mean, can you believe it? People don't believe me every time I tell them how I hate this job. It's a brutal job. You've got to be crazy like me. The thing is, I love my country and I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to save it. And in the process, one pays the price. But the thing is, if not me, who? That's a question I ask myself every day. And I'm really so blessed to really have the full support of my family. And they understand because they pay the price in the process as well.
John F. Kennedy, I was reminded by Paul O'Sullivan, and I want to talk to you about Paul in a moment, about that wonderful quote of John F. Kennedy's, "Don't ask what your country can do for you, but for what you can do for your country." And you've consistently said that this is the reason why you're in politics. But Paul says, Herman, slow down. Don't attack Cyril Ramaphosa so much. Don't try and kick him out because the alternative is not good. What's your response to Mr. O'Sullivan on that?
Please tell Mr. Paul O'Sullivan that I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that we get Cyril Ramaphosa to go and sell his ancolas and buffaloes, because probably that is what he enjoys best. We cannot really have a president who runs a country on a side and be most of the time hustling. So for whatever reason, what Paul thinks about Cyril Ramaphosa, I can tell you Herman Mashaba is one of those South Africans determined and going to work hard to ensure that we can get Cyril Ramaphosa be removed from office so that we can have someone who cares about my children and my grandchildren.
But all the evidence about this Phala Phala story shows that he was set up. Arthur Fraser.
No, please, Alec. No, please, Alec. Set up by who he set himself up. Tell me, Alec. Let's be honest with ourselves. Set up by who? The man never denied the fact that there were US dollars stolen, violence used against the people who committed this crime, including asking for the Namibian government's assistance, bribing these criminals who stole his US dollars, and the dollars which were not declared to the Reserve Bank, never paid taxes, no invoices. So please, no one must try and really divert our attention from criminality. We must never accept as South Africa to condone criminality, more especially from a head of a state.
Okay, but let's just look at the facts. And the facts are Arthur Fraser is a crook, is a criminal, is corrupt. We know
no one denied.
Okay, that's point one.
That one, I agree with you. That's good when criminals exposed one, and let them bring more. So let Cyril also tell us who the other criminals are. But we are not going to condone it because Fraser is a criminal. Therefore, he set up another criminal. Let Cyril tell us about the other criminalities. Look at today. Our people the country is going through stage 6 load shedding. And it happened at the time when the Eskom was looted by the Guptas, right in front of the eyes of Cyril Ramaphosa. So I think, yes, let him tell us who the other criminals are, because he surrounded himself with criminals.
Okay, but point two is the head of the VIP protection unit, Major General Rudy O'Sullivan, says he's also a crook. he has also corrupt. He was planted there as a sleeper by Arthur Fraser. Then the guy who arrives, think of it, Herman, a guy arrives there, he gives you $500,000. Some chap is a South Sudanese. No one knows where he is, what he bought for the buffaloes. The money is sitting there. Then the money gets stolen after it's been put in. I mean, sure, you might not like Ramaphosa, but my goodness, he's been stitched up in this very well,
Alec,
very
Alec,
obviously.
Alec,
Not
Alec, let me tell you, I'm
okay.
not really prepared to accept the defenders of criminality defending Cyril
Mm.
Ramaphosa. Why then didn't Cyril Ramaphosa immediately report this to the law enforcement agencies? He's the number one. He's the head of this country. Why didn't he have confidence in our law enforcement agencies instead of using the mafias to go and look for the people who stole this money?
But he had a major general in the police who was looking into the case. Anyway, look, I think this Phala Phala thing we're going to disagree on, but to look at the other stuff that's going
Maybe
on.
to disagree with you on it, Alec, because I know you mean well, but please don't be misled by people who want to protect criminality. We must never reach that stage as a country to accept criminality.
And I think that everybody is on the same page there, especially today, especially with load shedding at stage 6. Do you have any insight on why Eskom went from stage 2 to stage 6? The feedback I had yesterday from Alan Winde of the Western Cape Premier, he said he doesn't know for sure, but there's a lot of talk of conspiracy going ahead of the ANC elective conference, sabotage. In other words, a political parties' games is affecting the rest of the country. Do you have any insight there?
Well, Alec, we must take this from a proper context. You look at load shedding didn't just really started today. Started from the days of Thabo Mbeki. It didn't start with Alec Erwin at the time, because ANC, with their communist, narrow-minded approach to the economy, went on a massive expansion of electricity to everyone, which was a good thing, But one thing that they forgot, like communists do, to understand that electricity doesn't come from God. It's not something like the sun that comes out every day. There's a source. They forgot that, yes, it's well and good you can try and really please and buy votes to expand electricity supply to those who never used to get it before. And what they did, instead of expanding while they were expanding the electricity supply, they forgot to expand Eskom. What they did, put in their cadres who had absolutely no clue whatsoever what electricity was all about. Look at the boards of Eskom. They started getting rid of qualified people because of the color of their skin, and also putting in people, whether they were black or white, started putting cadres. People who had no clue what was happening. They were just really on the board and running this organization on the basis of their connection, so that they can push their project to steal and loot this entity. I think it's really very unfortunate. Let me tell you something. I remember many years ago, I was at Sun City for the Nedbank Golf Challenge. One of the ladies, the husband was one of the senior members of ANC, was on the board of Eskom. Had no idea what was happening. On Sunday, she had to leave early because Eskom was flying them to Dubai on first class basis, going to a women's conference. Nothing to do with Eskom. Just to give you an example. That's before we started having the serious. Obviously, the challenges of Eskom were just beginning to emerge. And So what has happened right now? Look at the board of Eskom right now. I mean, great South Africans, but tell me in terms of their knowledge of what's happening. Look at what our law enforcement agencies are doing with the looting, with the sabotage, because the Eskom is being really sabotaged by criminal elements that would not want it to really function. And tell me, when last did you hear anyone ever punished? Where are the Guptas right now? In fact, this morning, last night before I went to bed, I said, in the morning, I must remind South Africans about the Guptas. Why is the National Prosecuting Authority taking so long? If the Guptas are in jail, I don't know. Are they still in jail in Dubai or not? Nobody knows, because they think we are going to really forget about this. And what is the president saying about this? He's gone underground. The only thing President Ramaphosa thought he was doing good for South Africa. You know what is what message we got this morning? He says he's doing something good for South Africa, giving us an extra holiday. I mean, I said, why goodness, is this the best economic thing that any normal president can do for South Africa? These are things that unfortunately make some of us really very mad. With South Africa, we honestly have not done the research. But if I look at the number of holidays, South Africa must be having the most holidays ever in the world. In the meantime, 12 million South Africans are unemployed. Right now, your businesses don't have electricity. But here's the president, the shops, factories, shopping centers, they're running on generators. You know how much it's costing them on a daily basis to run their business? Over and above this, you give another holiday. You know, every time there's a holiday, you know the cost to businesses. Because now you've got to pay double pay, because people have to be paid holiday salary. Cyril Ramaphosa, who some of the people claim him to really be a businessman. Tell me any normal business person wouldn't figure something like this. Because Cyril Ramaphosa has never employed people, doesn't know the implication of a holiday, the cost of holiday to the business community. You know, these are total madness, and people expect us to keep quiet about this.
What's happening with ActionSA? Because we are now looking at 2024. Everything that you've said, it's a compelling argument. Compelling argument. We've got the ANC's elective conference coming up. Maybe Ramaphosa continues. It looks like he will. But let's look ahead 18 months' time. Yeah, you've done a lot of work. What signals, what feedback are you getting about on the ground about ActionSA? And if you like, the business-friendly parties, the Rainbow Coalition, as the Freedom Front talks or describes it. Can you give us some insight on how that is developing?
Well, I think as ActionSA, really very pleased, worked really very hard. Alec, I'm sure I must have had discussions with you where I committed to South Africans beginning of this year that by end of this year, I'll have all 9 provinces having provincial chairpersons. Here it is. I achieved that project in 9 months. So I had to crisscross the country to really look at credible South Africans who can obviously lead the 9 provinces. Because come 2024, ActionSA is going to contest all 9 provinces. We can't. We've had a practical experience last year when we contested only 6 municipalities out of the 278. I wanted to obviously test the water and get the necessary experience. But this time around, we cannot have ANC past 2024. We can't. Otherwise, it'll be the end of South Africa. So we're ready for this. Actually, half an hour ago, I just received breaking news from Gwena Mangope, our provincial chairperson in the Northwest. He's already sent us states of branches launched in the Northwest ever since he took over. 110 branches already launched. I'm sure you saw about a month ago, Limpopo launched over 100 branches. Right now, as I'm talking to you, they've got 120 branches. Limpopo, areas that, provinces that I never thought we will make inroads. As much as, yes, we needed to contest them. 120, 114 in Northwest. As I say, in our WhatsApp group, I was saying, Kwena was really very excited when all the teams throughout Northwest gave him the figures. He's busy. In fact, you'll see before the end of this today, he's going to. I said to him, Kwena, I need urgently a press statement. Tell South Africa about this. These are the news that South Africans wants to really have. Athol in the Eastern Cape. Michelle Wasserman in the Western Cape. Our superstar right now is Wakele Mngangwe in KZN. I will tell you, the team is doing some amazing work, and it was not an easy exercise. Right now, I'm confident that talking to you right now to say, look, you know what, ActionSA is going to emerge. If not the biggest party in this country, is going to be number 2. And this morning, I had a 4 or 5 hour meeting, very productive meeting with John Steenhuisen, because ever since I put them into power last year, we've really had more issues than actually focus on running these municipalities properly, so that you can prepare for 2024. I think my meeting with John today was really very positive. I'm encouraged. I went to bed last night thinking about worried about the outcome of this meeting. And I think John came to this meeting was really very positive, and I'm excited about this, because
that's good news.
Once I can get the DA to really get to understand that a prosperous South Africa and the ANC cannot coexist in one place. Let's work on getting them out. I'm not really saying we want, as ActionSA, want to take over DA or DA take over ActionSA. We are 2 separate companies with different manifestos. But at the end of the day, we've got more in common than the differences. Let's really focus on our similarities and our common objective, and let ANC be our priority to take them out, so that jointly we can run a multi-party government and save this country. So I'm excited about this, but it's not going to be an easy one, but fortunate enough, it is possible.
Herman, that's really good news that you and John Steenhuisen had a 4 to 5 hour meeting today, and that you emerged there happy, because a lot of the research we're getting is that voters say the opposition parties must stop bickering, because if they bicker amongst each other, then we're just going to carry on voting for the ANC or not vote. But the other big question that comes out from many people who would be admirers and supporters of ActionSA, there is this perception that you are too close to the EFF. What is that? It appears to have come back from the time when you were mayor of Johannesburg. You talk very, very strongly against their economic policies, but what is this? Is this disinformation? Is there a lot of truth to it? Just, level with us on that.
It's interesting, and actually a good question for you to ask, because it's one of the issues I raised with John about this propaganda by some people in the DA, because I believe in social justice, because when I was the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, I was there to serve everyone when the DA did not want me to serve the other communities. And I said, no, this is not going to happen. As a mayor, I have the responsibility to serve all South Africans. And obviously now they embarked on this massive campaign to label me as an EFF mayor. And I said, John, please, these are some of the things that you've got to stop, because as you as DA are coming out with this propaganda, I'm sitting with another problem, Alec, where I have the ANC accusing me of being a DA light. They think I'm a house nigger. Look, I'm not going to be distracted by such attacks. You can call me anything. You can call me an EFF mayor. You can call me a house nigger. One thing for sure, I'm committed to a non-racial South Africa, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone. No one is going to dictate to me who I must associate with. I'm going to associate with poor people. I'm going to associate with our white counterparts, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone. If a DA wants to label me as an EFF mayor because I care about poor people, then that's fine. I'm prepared to live with that label. If the ANC is going to label me to be a white man in a black skin, that's nonsense. I'm sure you, Alec, you've got the eyes to see. I'm a proud black God-created person. I'm not going to be distracted by that kind of nonsense. So at the end of the day, I can tell you I'm committed to a non-racial South Africa, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone that come 2024 we'll remove ANC out of government. Obviously we're going to remove a lot of unjust laws, including race-based legislation. I don't want to leave my grandchildren to live in a country where they're judged on the basis of the color of their skin. I want my grandchildren to be judged on the basis of their character. I lived more than half of my life under an evil system of apartheid that deprived me of opportunities. I lived 28 years under a criminal enterprise called ANC, whose survival was dependent also, like the National Party, on dividing us along racial lines. So I'm not going to fall into that trap of being distracted because people are prepared to insult me. So yes, if people believe, if I care about poor people, I'm going to be labeled an EFF person. There's nothing I can do about it. If people are going to label me the house nigger because I want to work with white South Africans, then that's fine. Ask them to look for other labels or other insults. Let them understand that insults is not something that is going to distract Herman Mashaba.
Don't get down into the mud and wrestle with pigs. That's a wonderful saying that my favorite aunt, she was a flower child, a child of the 60s, and she had all these interesting sayings, and that was one of them. And it appears as though that message anyway is very firmly with Herman Mashaba, the founder of ActionSA, and I'm Alec Hogg from BizNews.com.